Hey, folks, this is Rebel Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, the tornado himself, Tony Penicow.
And Psychic Combat with a brand new deck of cards. Ready to see what's going to be happening.
Well, you need to help the weatherman out up here because he said we were only supposed to get 6 inches and we got 24.
What?
Thank God it's the fluffy stuff. Very light and easy to get out of the way, but definitely doesn't matter when you're 2 feet of it. You know, it's like still tough to shovel out. But I think the hardest work tomorrow is going to be trying to sweep off my truck and be in compliance with the no snow on your vehicle law. I might have to drive real fast around the neighborhood to get the rest of it off. But we'll see. Yeah, tough storm, but thank God. Cross my fingers. No power outages yet. We had one last time. So that was obviously a factor, the heavy, wet snow. This time really wasn't any ice or any wetness with it. It was just all real cold,
even
light
down,
snow.
Down where I am, it started in like the early afternoon around like 1 or 2 o'clock. And, it was coming down at a decent pace. And then, like, later in the evening, you could hear where there was definitely some ice mixed in with it. But, no lines went down. We had no problems, where I live. I worked all day yesterday. I was off yesterday because they wanted me to I was taken off, hopefully work the tree lot, which, as I told you before we got on, I told them I wasn't definitely going to work that day with the storm. So I kind of putzed around the house, did a few things here, did a few things there. And then I got 3 calls from my actual job if I could do emergencies. I go, can you do this emergency job real quick? Yeah, it took me each one took me 5 minutes, and I'm like, oh, fuck, people. I get off. But today, I logged right on, and, full day with no issues. Jumped out, helped, do some shoveling, clean some cars off, but that was it. It's funny. We talked last Thursday. I had off on Friday. I went into the lot, and normally around the, as we call it, the third weekend, we still have a good number of trees on the stands and some still on the ground. Half of our stands were empty, and they're like, one young kid called me. I was on my way. I was picking up some food. He goes, "You going with me?" I said, "Going with you where?" He goes, "Are you going with more trees?" I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." He goes, "Well, I don't want to go by myself with so-and-so. He's not going to do any work, and I'm going to lift all these trees myself." I'm like, "Stevie, I get to the like, oh, Tone, great, you're here. Go with these guys. You got to go pick up 150 more." Okay.
Wonderful.
So we went to another, I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know, because normally our place where we get them from is not far from where I went to college, which is 2.5 hours away. I didn't want to go there. Or we had another spot we were looking at, which is about 2 hours away. I didn't want to go there either. Thankfully, we had another guy that we do business with sometimes about 20 minutes away. So rode there, got this stuff. We were sold out of them by Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was turning people away Tuesday night, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Owner calls me. He's like, "Yeah, Friday, come in early. You're going to pick up another 100. Okay. Give me the hours.
The tree business is booming.
I'll tell you, my record tip season was last year. I made $691 in tips for the whole season, which was like the best year I ever had. I'm already at $830 for this year, and I still got this weekend to go.
It's actually too bad that you didn't get as much snow as I did, because you won't be able to try to match what I'm going to do. And it's funny that we have a lady that can tell us a little bit about Rocky V tonight, because I'm going to do a Rocky IV parody in the backyard with a big log on my shoulder and the 3 feet drifts in my backyard. Rocky IV, yeah, one of my favorite training montages. I don't know if I'll be able to get away with posting anything with the actual music, but people will know what it's about when they see it.
I'll be able to know. I mean, you got to get somebody to get on like a sled, and you got to pull them through the snow too.
I'm only going to do the log part, the log over his shoulder when he's running through the snow. I'm not going to go too far.
What was it, the one time I was joking a couple of years ago? I was doing something like chopping wood or something. I'm training like champions of the past, like Marciano, Lewis, Foreman, Balboa. You're like, I do this every day. I'm like, yeah, I know, but you don't have good pictures like I do.
All right.
I was talking to a girl today. She was like, I gotta watch a Christmas movie tonight. I gotta watch The Godfather. I said, okay, yeah, sure. Or why not? I'm like, well, I gotta watch Rocky 4.
Well, I hate to say it, but one of the biggest stories in combat sports this week is a proverbial battle of the sexes idea being tossed about. Amanda Nunes and Jake Paul. She's been flapping his jaws about wanting the Conor McGregor fight.
God.
And now they're talking, since it's exhibition and it's starting to like really stick, and they're really thinking about doing this battle of the sexes. Quite a long distance from the tennis version, but it could be possible. I would pay to see that. I think Amanda Nunes would just wipe the mat with him, but hey, it is what it is. That's the news. We just reported. Unreal. But yeah, it's actually being talked about. And we've actually seen it before. There was a video. I'm not sure if it's still out there. I mean, I'm sure somebody could find it, but there was a video of like a mixed martial arts real fight between a male and a female, where a female won the fight, tapped the guy out after he didn't really take her seriously at first, when he started kicking his ass, and then he started taking it seriously. It was too late; he was choked out. But never been officially in front of like a paid audience or anything like that that I know of. So there would be a first, but I don't think it's going to happen. We shall see. So imagine the ridicule he'll face if he loses. Not that Amanda Nunes is, a pushover, but oh, he lost to a girl. He's going to hear that. Anyway, interesting in development. Mark Hunt, his crossover to boxing didn't quite work out. He lost. Points decision to Paul Gallant. Mark Hunt not doing so well in the
At least he
tournament.
didn't get knocked out.
Yeah. Anyway. So we'll see what happens there. He's calling out another Australian guy now. Whitaker. Which is, where is it? Rob Whitaker. After improving his record to 10 wins and 1 draw from 11 professional bouts. That's who he wants next. Jake Paul and Amanda Nunes. Yikes. Alright, this is what we've come to, unfortunately. Alright, we had a candidate for Fight of the Year in UFC 256's main event. There was no winner, so I guess either guy would have done the job. But I came very close to the big bucks on this one on my FanDuel card. I did very well, except for the very disappointing co-main event where Tony Ferguson looked like really looked like a ghost of his former self. Not even there. Just looked like he was totally outclassed by Charles Oliveira. We thought it was going to go the other way. I was thinking he was Alex Oliveira or something, because I didn't realize he had that win streak going, and he just looked so superior there. Looked like he had it all together, and
it is so sad it looks like he hit his peak when he couldn't get a title shot. You know,
Yeah, Tony
I'm not saying
Ferguson.
he's done yet, but I agree with you. He looked like someone else. A different person has taken over his body. Just horrible.
Yeah, every other fight I picked correctly, and to just demonstrate how horrible Tony did, his record, his numbers on FanDuel, his total score for the fight was 11 points. For a full distance fight, three rounds. That's like horrible. If you've played FanDuel, it's like, usually somebody, even if he loses, he makes like 30, 40 points. 11 points. He just totally got beat the crap out of, But Brandon Moreno delivered. He was my pick against Davison Figueiredo, and I really thought he was going to get it done. Turned out to be a majority draw, well deserved by both guys. But Moreno, was throwing bombs. Figueiredo was out on his feet a couple times, managed to pull it together and come back into the fight. Just a lot of back and forth. One guy looked like he might have it put in the bag, and then the other guy looked like he had it done. Just injuries, blood, it was all there. Just a great fight. I watched.
Yeah, and it seems like it's really stirring up attention for that division.
Yeah.
Maybe, just like in boxing sometimes, the champ sets the tone for the division.
Right.
And Demetrius Johnson was pound for pound great, but he just never caught on with the fans, and neither did Cejudo. But these guys seem to really, flyweight, really jumping now.
And Davison Figueiredo actually claimed that he had some kind of a issue prior to the fight that might have affected his performance. But I think one of my favorite moments in the fight was actually after the fight, when the final bell sounded, or buzzer, and Figueiredo just looked back at Moreno. I think it was against the cage or on the ground at the time, and he just gave him that look like, and the switch flipped at that moment, because he looked at him at first like, you fucking asshole, and then it was like, oh, good dude, that was a good fight. Seconds later, you know what I'm saying? Just total facial expression just changed right there. He went from, all right, fight's over, I don't have to be mad at him, to, oh, you're cool, dude. Good fight. So he just he did like a turnaround and went back to him and, did the old respect thing. But, those two tried to kill each other before that, so it's understandable. But it is one of the best demonstrations of that thing that happens to fighters, that really doesn't happen in other sports as much, because you're not really trying to knock the guy out with every play, if you're a decent sportsman in most outfits, So, yeah, it's one of those things you just don't see in other sports. But, that was great. I loved watching every minute of that fight. We also had Mackenzie Dern beating Verna Jandiroba. That was also a pretty decent fight. Ended up being Mackenzie's night. She was a little bit more aggressive and got Verna distracted by, I think it was an eye injury. Swelled her face up really bad. And we had Kevin Holland getting the quickest knockout of the night over Ronaldo Souza. Just dropped him in 1 minute and 45 seconds. I think that was another pick I had to have. I did have it on one card, but not on the other one that won. Won the $8.
I've never seen a knockout. I've never seen anything quite like that, ever.
Yeah,
that was incredible.
The interesting thing was he kind of pulled a matrix, he was just in a very awkward position. Came up off his back and hammer-fisted the guy at such a weird angle. And, Ronaldo Souza is a bald-headed guy. He's just all dome, just shining for you to hit. So, of course, Holland, took every advantage of his height there in that situation and was just able to hit some kind of leverage. It actually kind of reminded me, not to be like, Will Bragg, tough guy, I was in a fight, but it's like back in probably 2006, 2007, up here in New Hampshire, I got invited to a party down in Manchester. They were like, "Oh, you should bring your boxing gloves next time." So I did the next weekend, and then there was couple fights outside and stuff like that, and the kids were cooled off. And then one of them was like, "Oh yeah," my friend was like, "We should box," and I go, "I'll box you one-handed." So shit got to the point where somebody else comes in and he goes, "Oh, let's go 2-on-1." Because I was beating my buddy, just not really beating him up, but just keeping him off me, but not letting him get close. And this kid had two gloves on. So I just was like, "No, I'm all set." And then he just hits me with his gloves. And I don't even think about the fact that I don't have my right hand glove on. And I just punched him right in the face. He went up onto the couch, and all his buddies rushed in behind me. And like the tallest kid in the house that had just fought one of my buddies outside in a boxing match is hitting me in the back of the head, and I can hear him. And then one of my friends tackled him, put him in the chicken wings, and he landed right in front of me with his face on the ground, and he had this real big nose. So from my kneeling position of people piling in on the back of me, he was right in front of me, right in front of the couch, and I was on the other side. So I ended up landing probably the hardest 3 punches I ever landed in my life from that position onto his nose. And his nose exploded with blood all over the place. I rolled off him. I had blood all over my shirt the next day. And then some girl just come over and grabbed me by the arm and pulled me into the kitchen. And then somebody opened the door and threw me out. And on the way out the door, somebody sucker punched me in the face. So that was the only damage I took to the face, but like all my friends who were there were like 90 pounds. They literally, like the weakest kids, the other guys had gone off to go get something to eat. The toughest guys who had just fought in the boxing matches outside, those were the kids I came with. They were just like, "We're leaving," and then it just so happens I get in a fight with like the tiniest guys there. One of them had just finished chemo.
I got one that can pretty much. I got one you'll appreciate because it can come close to topping that. We were at a party. I was throwing a party about 20 years ago, right? There was a bunch of my hometown buddies, a bunch of my college buddies, and they brought some of their buddies. So it was a group. It was like 3 different groups of people there, and like I knew most of the people, but I didn't even know all the people because buddies of buddies were there, and different girls were there, or whatever. So we were all drinking pretty good. Me and my one friend started like 11 a.m. Now we're getting to like 9, 10 o'clock at night, and we've been drinking all day. And so one guy that was a friend of mine through one of my college roommates, he and I started having words. Next thing you know, words start pushing. We're pushing each other. And next thing you know, we start kind of grappling. Now, I'm not a grappler. These 2 other guys that were friends of my hometown buddies, then they come over. Now, I don't know these guys. They start punching. Me and this other guy that I was fighting with were both Italian, dark-haired guys. These other 2 guys start punching me in the face, telling me I should never disrespect somebody in his own house. I'm like, "You assholes, this is my house. You're hitting the wrong guy." So, fight breaks out. Now, my one friend is trying to get involved. He sees this going on. The guys are holding him. So, the guy that I'm fighting with, when we both get up to our feet, one left hook, he goes down. I hit him a couple times on the ground. People pull me off. Should be over. But when he got up, nobody grabbed him, so he went to kick me in the balls. And when he did that, I blocked it with my one leg. But my other friend couldn't take it anymore. Threw the 2 guys off. Comes over, throws the guy through a tape. Next thing you know, he's hitting everybody and throwing people out the door. He was basically, just kicking. If he didn't know you, he hit you. I ended up breaking up my own fight.
Nice.
The next day, he came over. We're all bruised up, because people were just getting bodies were getting thrown everywhere. And he said, "What the hell happened last night?" I'm like, "I don't know, dude, but shit got fucked up." Now, last week, we still laugh about it. We're like, we don't know what the hell happened. We found beer cans in that room for 5 months. All over the place. Now, last week, I'm working, and my one friend's son, I've known him since he was a little kid. He's 24 now. And he's always been like one of those cocky and mouthy and whatever. We'd go to haunted houses when he was like 12, and he'd be running his mouth like, and he'd after jump out, I'll punch him in the face, whatever. And we'd step back, and he'd run behind us, So now that he's older and he's in his 20s now, he gets all fired up, especially when he drinks. So we're working last week. Now, a lot of times he'll try to do punch contests with me. And every time he does it, I'll punch him in the arm. I'll bruise him up. And I'm like, and then they go, "Oh, you shouldn't punch with you." I'm like, "I told you that." Well, the one time he tried to box with me, he kept punching me, and I said, "Stop it." So I backed him in a corner, and he knew to cover his right ribs because the left hook was coming. Turned the other way, so I dropped a couple right hands on him, and he kept bitching for days that it hurt. So now we're at the lot, and these customers were speaking Spanish, but I could understand a little bit of what they were saying, and they were trying to say a different price than it was. So I'm trying to go tell the owner. They're going to say something. I did not authorize it. So this kid, Stevie, is in the way, and I'm like, "Watch out, Stevie." He punches me. I said, "Not now." He punches me 3 times in the back. I turn around, and I just do one jab right at his forehead. Boom! Like a George Foreman jab. I knocked him back about 3 feet, and then a little bit, I look over, and I just see his head going. I'm like, "Oh, shit." I gave him an egg.
Nice.
I'm like, I felt kind of bad. He's like, "Yeah, but it was kind of funny." I'm like, "You're the only person who get punched right in your head and think it's funny."
Well, a lot of people got punched in the head at UFC 256. It was a lot of knockouts. Actually, it was like 6 in a row almost. No, 4 in a row. Kevin Holland finished that streak off. But Cyril Gagne over Junior Dos Santos ended with a TKO elbow. Cub Swanson had a beautiful knockout over Daniel Pineda. That was a little bit of a war to start with. I had Cub on my card. Just picked him correctly, and the knockout helped. Rafael Fiziev had him on one of my cards. I'm not sure if it was the winning one, but he got the KO, first round KO over Renato Carneiro, so that was kind of a must-have win. I did have Gavin Tucker on one of my cards. He beat Billy Quarantillo by unanimous decision. And Tony's little namesake, the tiny tornado, Tisha Torres, was a must-have, and I said, I'm going to have to pick her. That's going to be in the winning lineup. I know it, and she was. First round win. At the end of the round, Sam Hughes just quit, basically. They told her, well, she didn't quit. She wanted to fight. But they asked if she could see, and she said no. So they were like, all right, we're stopping the fight. Corner stoppage. So Chase Hooper in the first fight of the night actually was losing. He was also one of those guys you kind of had to have on in the early going, but then once the knockout started, kind of wiped off most people's radar. But Chase Hooper got the win by heel hook submission after he was kind of getting his butt kicked. Third round, pulled it out. And then we got UFC Fight Night 183 coming up this weekend, Nevada at the Apex. Stephen Thompson and Jeff Neal in the main event there. Wonder Boy 15-4 with a 1 draw. Jeff Neal 13-2. And I don't know much about Neal. I don't know if I've seen much of his fights, but I don't know. And we'll have to see how much people have adjusted to the Stephen Thompson style. He tends to be very defensive, kind of lately in a lot of full distance, boring, drawn out fights, but had his real big time in the spotlight with the fight with what's his name? The draw there that went 5 rounds. Woodley.
Tyron Woodley.
Yeah. So we'll see if we get that guy or an improved guy. But I know he works real hard at it, so we'll have to tune in and find out. Jose Aldo, also veteran, long time in the game. On the card, he is 28-7, fighting Marlon Vera, who is 16-6 with 1 draw. We got Kalen Williams, 11-1, fighting Michael Pereira, who's 24-11. Marlon Moraes, 23-7 with 1 draw, fighting Rob Font, who's 17-4. We got Taylor Santos, 16-1, fighting Jillian Robertson, 9-4. Marcin Tybura, 20-6, fighting Greg Hardy. Well, there's a big step up, 7-2. That could be the toughest test of Greg's career. Tybura is nothing to mess with. Anyway, Anthony Pettis, 23-10, over fighting Alex Morono, who is 18-6. Pani Kianzad, 13-5, fighting Sijara Eubank, 6-5. We'll have to see how many of these fights get canceled. Seems like half the card disappears by the time it's fight day, but this is a stacked one. Carl Roberson also on the ledger here. He is 9-3, fighting Dalcha Lungiambula, who is 10-2. Deron Wynn, 6-2, fighting Antonio Arroyo, 9-3. Tafon Nchawaki, probably butchering that, 4-0, fighting Jamie Pickett, who's 11-4. And not Tyler, but Cody Dearden. He is 11-2 with one draw, fighting Jimmy Flick, who's 15-5. I believe that was a canceled one that's being rescheduled here. Christos Giagos on the card, 17-8, fighting Carlton Minus, who is 10-2. And we don't have very much time to do the boxing yet. Hopefully we'll wrap up the show with that. But we got some big fights, as Tony mentioned before we got on the broadcast. Friday night we have Gennady Golovkin versus somebody named Kamil Surameta. Probably butchering that one. And then Saturday we got Saul Canelo Alvarez against Callum Smith. And last weekend the big fight was Chris Colbert.
I remember hearing that Canelo was trying to get a fight in December to keep active because he hadn't fought since late when he knocked out Sergey Kovalev. So, but then it was like there was really no publicity on these fights at all. I only found out because I got an email from DAZN and it was like, "Hey, fights this weekend, Triple G and Canelo." I'm like, "Well, Triple G and Canelo, I know they're not fighting each other," but I'm like, "What the hell?" So I clicked on it. I'm like, Triple G Friday night. I'm like, "Motherfucker, I gotta work." And then I'm like, Canelo Saturday night. I'm like, "Should be home in time. This is great." I was like, but I'm talk about just no advertising. I know this year is a weird year. You don't aside from the Mike Tyson, Roy Jones thing, there haven't been any really mega fights. Danny Garcia and Errol Spence got some publicity. You had a few that they were talking about on ESPN Plus or maybe DAZN, but nothing where it was it was really must see because it wasn't getting the advertising. And that sucks. And I think a lot of it making it hard is because you don't have the live gates either. It's like, hey, Las Vegas, T-Mobile Arena, or Madison Square Garden, Texas Stadium, these big venues.
Right.
Sucks.
All right, well, we're going to get Patricia Morrison on the phone, widow of Tommy Morrison. And since we've been following her stuff for, it's got to be months now since we last interviewed her, some developments have happened since she did the interview with us. Namely, there's been some tissue discovered that belongs to Tommy Morrison that I believe is undergoing testing right now. We'll have to get the update directly from her, but it's impacting her case. She's done some filings, and I'm sure she'll tell us the rest. But just great stuff, and she just keeps fighting on. So we'll get the story directly from her. But funny that we get the big snowstorm the night we're gonna talk to Tricia. I know she probably hasn't watched the other Rocky movies, but hello, Tricia.
Yes.
Hey, it's Rabble Rousing Rich here. We got Tony the Tornado. We can hear you loud and clear.
Hey, Tricia. How you doing?
Hey.
Good evening, Patricia.
Good evening.
And I wanted.
Tricia, I got the point. Let me ask first. Did you get the Facebook restriction? Did they throw you in jail? I saw your post last night. Like, hey, can you see this? Which is my code word of, hey guys, I'm trying to post. I was in Facebook jail. Can you see this?
Not technically in jail, but was unable to post something. And I know that there's an algorithm placed on me, so I was having a little problem. Yeah.
Yeah, mine happened. The last time I really remember was a couple of years ago. They found 2 of my karaoke videos, one from 2012 and one from 2014. They decided to put me on a 3-day Facebook jail in 2017, like 3 and 5 years after I posted the videos of me singing Elvis and Baby Got Back. Yeah, and I was like, well, someone goes, well, you could be, because you're playing their songs and like they get royalties. I'm like, well, I don't think Elvis cares about my royalties.
Oh, Elvis is the #1 grossing dead celebrity. Bet you didn't know that.
I can believe it.
It's true fact.
And it was great because how this works directly in, because his big thing was taking care of business. And what did Tommy have on his trunks in his career? TCB, taking care of business.
That's right. Yep. Very much an Elvis Presley fan.
Yeah.
All right, Patricia. I was telling the guys a little bit about the latest development, the biggest one, with the tissue, Tommy's tissue being found. What else has been going on since we last chatted on the show?
Right, yeah. When were we on the show?
I think it was pre-COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely pre-COVID, yeah. Well, basically, in a nutshell, this is where we're at. And it's all in court records. We went to federal court. When I mean we, I mean me, and
well,
all the fans
you ought to be
that are supporting.
Designated as a legal team, the way you fight the law with the stuff.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
I'm sure that's how they think of it.
So just to catch up on the story, we've done federal court in Nevada. It's the district court. And then we went to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco. And then we took the case to the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. And as you know, they only accept 1% of the cases that they receive up there, so we were not part of that 1%. But the U.S. Supreme Court said if I found new evidence, I could always go back to the Federal District Court in Nevada and ask them to reopen the case. So I've done that a few times. I've been working on this, as you all know, since 2013 when Tommy passed away. And where we're at right now, in court, on the dockets, in court records that have been filed by the Nevada Commission and Quest Diagnostics, so you've got the pharmaceutical company, which is the lab that did the testing and that does testing, and the Nevada Commission, they have on the record said no diagnosis was ever made in 1996. They've said that they also did not have any clinical symptoms of HIV or HIV infection in Tommy. In 2006, July 11th, 2006, they actually secretly lifted his suspension that they enforced on him on February 10th, 1996. So there's a document in court records that they filed themselves showing that they had lifted his indefinite worldwide suspension. Then they, on the lab side, on the pharmaceutical side, is they have confessed that their lab reports that they produce are not a diagnosis of HIV anyway. They've also testified that the tests used on Tommy do not detect the virus HIV. And on the record now, the judge in federal court in Nevada has suddenly decided that the post-mortem and the ante-mortem that was done before Tommy died is on the record. And that's taken about, 6 years for him to suddenly realize that has been on the record. And the post-mortem and the ante-mortem were done independently, one in Boston and one in Omaha, Nebraska. And both of them state very clearly that no viral particles, no abnormalities, no retroviruses were found in his blood. And a retrovirus is the scientific term for HIV. Also, it's taken 6 years for the Nevada Commission in 2020, so just recently, to confess that the statutes that they had said that Tommy had violated between 1996 until his death, 2013, and then also throughout the lawsuit, they used those same statutes against me to say that Tommy had violated. They've now confessed they never existed in 1996. And when I mean statutes, I mean Nevada law. So, for example, NAC 467.027, Section 3B, did not exist in 1996. Neither did NRS 469.1005, nor did 467.1002.
Trying to take laws that exist today and retroactively apply them.
Nor did NRS
96.
Right. Yeah, you can't enforce statutes.
That's a new one.
Retroactive in a case, and this is kind of what they were doing, but not really. They were saying that they did exist in 1996, so that's out in the wash too. So this is all in the dockets. Everybody can find them. It's public knowledge. So where we stand right now really is I filed, while we were waiting for all this to come back and try and reopen the case in Nevada, I found a piece of tissue belonging to Tommy. And it's almost like the motion that I filed is for a motion for DNA HIV testing on newly discovered preserved tissue belonging to Tommy Morrison. Okay. Now, I then had to look up the DNA Act and see what that entailed, and clearly it shows that there's no statute of limitations. At any time, you can ask for DNA testing. So DNA HIV testing shouldn't be a problem. Also, when you do the DNA testing, it will or will not exonerate prisoners that have been on death row for 30 years. So this case, even though it dates back to 1996, it's almost like Tommy's been on death row and, is it going to exonerate him, yes or no? Despite the fact that there's nothing on the record anymore from their side that shows he ever had HIV anyway. And in fact, they're now saying that they never suspended him. So that tissue is very important. We're now waiting for the court to come back to us and decide whether they will do the DNA HIV testing on that tissue. So that's where we're at.
Wow. Now, also, I don't know if I was the first one to send it to you, but I sent you the article link that mentioned Mike Tyson's recounting of that night that he found out that Tommy would never box again, was the words that the guy that told him said. And we talked about it on our show.
Thank you for sending that through.
But we weren't able. Haven't mentioned it to you afterwards. Just I saw that you had put it out on Twitter that you wanted it populated, and I wasn't sure if it was a good or bad thing. But the more I thought about it, I said, well, geez, if the conspiracy is that they did it to get rid of him so that he wouldn't have to fight Mike Tyson wouldn't have to fight him, Mike would be one of the first people that would be told, right? Even if he didn't know anything was going on, they would probably tell him, and just see what he had to, what his reaction would be. And
Rich, that's always been a very interesting point. Because the media actually knew before Tommy did, because when so-called Tommy was told, he was then told, I'm thinking about 5 o'clock in the evening, he was told, get out of town now, the media is swarming. Well, how could they be swarming? If he's only just been told, how could the media be swarming? So it does make sense. So when you sent that article through about Mike Tyson being told that Tommy was never going to be fighting again, well, first of all, that contradicts everything that the Nevada Commission has now stated under oath. They've committed perjury, right? So I'm following up on that, and we'll be meeting with Mike Tyson on that.
Awesome.
And I don't think that the defendants can do anything to harm Tyson.
No, he's not reliant on any promoter now.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I mean, as you know, with my witnesses, my expert witnesses, suddenly they disappeared, and they had death threats put upon them. But I just don't think that they're going to be able to do that to Mike Tyson.
No. What did you think of, on a sidetrack, what did you think of his comeback recently against Roy Jones?
Well, I thought it was fun. You know, what I would like to have known is where the money was going to. You know, it's also
he kept saying
charity,
it was charity.
I did quite a bit for. Yeah, I did quite a bit for charity, and I would like to have known which charities that they were giving to. Right.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I think that the media didn't portray. In their articles. But it certainly opens up a lot under regulations.
Yeah.
Because I remember when Tommy was doing an exhibition fight in up near Monterey Carmel with the Garcia family, and Riddick Bowe was up there. So Riddick Bowe was part of the exhibition fight, and so was Tommy, and this was 2010. And it was able to go off without any problems, without any testing, nothing. And basically, Tommy fought against the local policeman, and Riddick Bowe fought against, I think, one of the top guys that lived in Monterey. And basically, Riddick Bowe lost the fight, right? And so did Tommy. Tommy lost to the police guy. How Tommy lost was, he fell to the ground and pretended he got knocked out. But all the funds went to an orphanage, so we knew where the funds were going.
Yeah.
And then the next exhibition fight that Tommy was going to do, I think it was South Carolina with Bone Crusher, right? Bone Crusher Smith and a couple of other boxers were going to be a part of it as well. And boy, they came down hard, especially on Tommy. They wanted drug tests, they wanted HIV tests, they wanted all kinds of tests, CTE tests, I mean, just everything.
Oh, boy.
And in the end, it never happened because they never got the financing, they never set the date or anything like that. So it's really interesting how this happened in California. I'd like to know whether I know that they didn't do marijuana testing.
Yeah, obviously.
They didn't do drug testing. Is that right?
He admitted to doing it before and after the fight, so yeah, there was a lot of changed rules. We thought they were going to have headgear until they showed up without it. So I don't know.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
I don't know how that developed.
So it's opened up. I mean, it's opened up the rules for fighters now over the age of 50, and the testing, as far as I can see, because there was a section in the licensing if you were going to do exhibition fights, especially in the Carolinas area. So I guess we'll just see what happens with the next lot.
Right. All right. And as far as the case and everything like that, what is the status like of where you're going with it? Like, is there a next step that you're waiting on? Is there anything that's
Yeah. What we're waiting on is the judge to rule on a docket number, which is 325. Docket number 325 is still pending in the court of law, and it's the motion for DNA HIV testing on that tissue. Now, when I filed that motion, that was in August, and obviously because of COVID, things have got delayed, hugely delayed, by probably about 6 to 8 months to actually get a response on filings in the court. So I filed that in August, and the defendants filed reply. And actually, I was really excited that the court let that motion be filed, because they could have said, no, that's enough, Mrs. Morrison, stop it. I mean, we're into the 7th year now, and they could have said stop, but they didn't. So they filed that docket, and then they gave the defendants 10 days in which to respond. So the lab, Quest Diagnostics, responded saying, "Oh, that tissue does not exist. We don't have it in our possession. She's lying. She's a vexatious litigant. We want her silenced. We want her fined. And this has all got to stop." And then the Nevada Commission on the other side, with their response, said, "Well, we never diagnosed him with HIV. We never suspended him." And it's like, what? What are you talking about? Now, 20 years later, you're saying none of this happened? Anyway, they came out with it again, Rich. They confirmed again that they never suspended him, diagnosed him with HIV, and, they were getting very tired now. This case has got to stop. So I responded back, as I was allowed to by the court, saying, yeah, we're all getting very tired of this, but, there is this piece of tissue out there that's preserved, and the judge has the email thread as a separate exhibit X, which shows that it does exist and that I'm not telling a lie, and it's up to the judge whether they want to file it, but I am scared that the defendants will go find this tissue and destroy it. Why not? Right? So anyway, so I filed that back in August, and then October 20th, the magistrate judge in Las Vegas filed with the court Exhibit X, which shows where the preserved tissue is and that it exists, and now it's on the record. So the only thing so of course the defendants are probably going, oh my goodness, she wasn't lying. She did do her investigation and it does exist. So everything is kind of hushed right now. So now we're in December and still waiting to find out if the judge is going to grant the DNA HIV testing on that preserved piece of tissue. And I want them to grant it. The defendants don't. Well, why not? If he's got HIV, then let them use a test that detects the virus and prove me wrong. End of story, end of the case, right?
Yep.
So the whole thing is very, very interesting right now.
So now,
we'll
are you waiting for them to make a ruling to get the testing done? Are you going to go forward with the testing and then give it to them?
Yes.
No,
I'm not going to go, and that's a good question you asked there. I'm not going to go with the testing on my own because we've already done that.
Right.
We already did the ante-mortem testing. We already did the AIDS testing, which all came back negative. We already did the post-mortem testing. So, if I go and do it again, then, why didn't they believe me before?
Right.
So, no, I want the court to order it. Because then they're the ones that are ordering the test, and the result will be as per, what they're ordering.
Right.
They're ordering the test result. So, no, I'm waiting for them to decide.
I see. And I also remember reading something about ESPN doing another 30 for 30. Did that ever come about that you know of?
Another 30 for 30 on Tommy, or
yes,
or
an additional one.
Or the one they did.
I thought they were
kicking
around the idea of another one.
No, not that I've heard of.
I must have misread something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that they've made enough money off the first one that they did. So to bring out a second one would be pretty interesting, because what more can they do to destroy somebody, right? Which they did in the first one.
I thought you had gotten to them and they were changing their tune on him, but I guess, I don't know, I must have misread one of your posts or something. I don't know where I got that idea, but...
well, no, I pulled them out on every single thing. Yeah, I pulled them out on every single thing that they've got on ESPN 30 for 30 about Tommy, and I called them out by showing them court records. And, on one hand, they're saying that Mark Ratner said that Tommy had HIV. On the other hand, in court records, Mark Ratner, under oath, is saying he never said anything about Tommy being HIV positive. So the whole thing is a mess.
Right.
Right now, in 2020, what are you going to believe, Rich? What happened in 1996, or what the commission is saying what now didn't happen in 2020? It's just they're contradicting themselves, and it's all on the record.
Right. And you've got some stuff that's been written, and there's a website and everything about just Tommy's life and all that. But have you done any kind of journal or thought about any creative project about the case itself and your fight to just get justice for Tommy and clear his name and all that?
Well, the only way that we're going to clear his name is for the media to wake up and start reporting the truth. What's happening right now is people are taking stories off old news, and reposting. And they're not looking at, for example, the timeline that I posted on Facebook and the timeline that's within the court records of all the updated information. So, I try and I've been pretty successful so far with people that have put YouTube videos up there, and Tommy's fans have alerted me of them, and I contact them direct, and I say, you know what, that's old news now. That's not really what happened, and then I'll just show them the court documents.
Right.
And I'll get them to investigate themselves. And they'll come back to me, and you know what? They actually apologize, and they say, we're really sorry. We just picked it up off ESPN, or we just picked it up off, this other YouTube video. And I go, that's the problem. That sort of stuff needs to come down. And the commission and the defendants need to be the first ones to jump on those YouTube videos and bring them down, because what those videos are saying contradicts what the defendants are now saying under oath. So they've committed perjury, either in 96 or in 2020, one or the other.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have put out false information and has not bothered to follow up on anything recent. And
it's bait and click. I guess they earn money,
Unfortunately, even one of our former guests here on the show put a page together on one of Tommy's relatives, I think, and repeated the AIDS stuff. I'll have to get on his case about that. But he was on he was on our show, and he's setting up this site called Everopedia. He's one of their editors, and some people, it's unfortunate.
Who is it? Who is it?
A guy named Matthew O'Neal. I don't know if he posted anything.
Don't even know him. No.
But,
right.
It's unfortunate. Some people, they just have heard the story so many times, it doesn't matter what evidence you put in front of their faces. They'll just be like, oh, yeah, I heard it, so it's true. And they're just so close-minded.
All they want, Rich, all they want is, I believe every time you click on something, they earn money, right? They're only after to earn money off this click and bait stuff on YouTube. And if anybody's listening to this interview that knows how I can contact YouTube and tell them, here's a list of all the videos that somebody's done on my husband, and here are the court records to prove that what's being shown on YouTube is not right. First of all, it's blackening the memory of a dead person, and that's illegal. But also, there has to be a way, somebody should, if somebody can contact me and let me know how to go about getting YouTube videos down, I'd appreciate it.
Right. Well, I think it would help if maybe a national outfit like CBS or ABC picked up your story and did a formal thing, just educating the general public that, hey, this this is something that needs to be corrected in the minds of the public, not just sporting fans, but just for humankind. He's really somebody that was not just a boxer; he was a movie star.
It was one of the biggest. It was right. When you think about it, it was one of the biggest stories in 1996. USA Today, New York Times. They all picked up on it, but and they all picked up on it again, Rich, when he died. Between September 2nd and September 17th, it was, Tommy Morrison was diagnosed with HIV in Las Vegas and died of AIDS in 2013. Well, now how embarrassing is it now, right?
Yeah.
Where the Nevada Commission says, well, we actually never did diagnose him with HIV in 1996. And, the post-mortem actually says there was no HIV and no AIDS diseases. It's like crickets. None of them will even respond.
There's obviously tons of parallels between Tommy's situation and the COVID, because we're getting all these different tests and false positives all over the place. Actually, we just had an incident in the NFL the other day, a couple weeks ago now, where Des Bryant was told minutes before the game that he got retested and he could not play. Minutes before the game. First time and only time I believe it's happened this season. Where you got an inconclusive test or something like that beforehand, and then they said, all right, well, we're going to test you right before the game. And it's, you failed. You can't play. And it was like the game against his arch rival, where he was supposed to be all pumped to show him up, you guys got rid of me. No, it was the team he used to play for, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, and
very
that's,
interesting
you bring
stuff.
up a good point there with COVID and the so-called HIV test, because Tommy's case clearly confirms that the tests do not detect the virus. Well, the only thing that is infectious is if you have the virus in you. Antibodies are not infectious. So, when I look at the COVID testing packet inserts, it clearly says there, it's not FDA approved. It's only approved for emergency use. It cannot be used for clinical purposes, only research. So, you look at the HIV packet inserts, exactly the same. Does not detect the virus. It's not FDA approved for HIV infection or the virus. So you just have to be really careful with the testing. And in fact, the commission confessed also in their court documents that they didn't know that the test could react false positive. That is what they stated.
Well, doesn't every test have that potential? If you think about it, I don't know how you can't have that.
Every test, I guess, is except for pregnancy tests. You'll know if you're pregnant or not because you have the baby, right?
Right. Yeah.
All right. So this whole case is very interesting. It's 2020. It all began in 2014 on the 24th of July, and still plodding along. So my goal is test that tissue.
Right.
Let's get this over and done with. And if there's no HIV, then I think you guys need to apologize and pay for the damages. And I do have the Morrison family behind me on this now. So it's taken a while, but when you've been so used to hearing stuff in the media, and then
well, I think did it just get dug up again?
It.
His mother died recently, right?
My mother died recently. Yeah, in England.
Oh no, I didn't hear about. I thought Tommy's mother recently died. No.
No, not that I know of. No, I texted her a few days ago.
Sorry.
But
I'm full of wrong information tonight. I apologize, but something happened where his name was brought up recently. I don't know. I thought I saw something recently where his brother was quoted or something. I don't know where I got that idea.
Rich, you're part of the fake news media, okay?
reporting people's death before it happens. Anyway, moving on. There's a lot of stuff out there, obviously, that's not correct. We don't know really how we can fix it, but what do you really hope to gain with this whole thing, other than compensation? Like, what's the big grand purpose to you?
Well, first of all those stupid. I mean, I can't think of anybody else in the world where videos and YouTube documentaries exist telling a lie, especially about a disease. Is there another celebrity that you know of
that's been dragged through the mud like that? No, I don't think so. Definitely do not think so.
Right, exactly. So that's going to be cleared up. I mean, basically, they have to lose this case, and I have to win it. And I'm not finished yet. The case is not finished yet. In fact, it's getting more exciting as it goes. So, but I just need more media exposure, and and I appreciate your interview because that helps as well.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate getting the update. I know I have to live up to my other promise too that I made to you, that I was going to write an article about it. I started it. I did the old college try and got it started, but I didn't really follow up, unfortunately. Haven't put the time into it, but I do want to.
No, that's all right, Rich.
Kind of put it in perspective with the COVID too. Now it kind of adds to it, but I've got a lot of notes, and I do want to publish something, whether it's on my own or through a magazine. But I also think I might send a few emails on your behalf to some of these major outlets, because I think the tie-in to COVID is very interesting, and testing, and what a positive or negative test can do to somebody's life like that in sports, especially
right.
At that level, heavyweight championship level boxing.
Right.
So it should be
I totally agree.
a bigger story than it is. And the fact that it's just been totally misconstrued by so many people, even after the fact, years later, when it's, your case and your work has established that it's definitely not true. You never had HIV or AIDS. And it's still being put out there, this misinformation, and you just don't see that, and like you said, in any celebrity. I can't think of one. So they should be jumping at the chance to do something good. I mean, this is what journalists get involved in journalism for. If they're good people, they want to get stories like this to help clear somebody's name. So maybe they just need to be poked and prodded a little bit, but I think they just needed to have it presented in the right way, that they'll say, all right, well, I'm not going to get sued over this if I put this out there, but I might rub some people the wrong way, but it's worth it because it's a good story. It's basically what they need to say.
Well, I've now actually put them on notice. And I posted it on Facebook because that really has been my only avenue to get the story out. But I have sent the email out, and I think I sent it to you. I've put people on notice with the facts of the case and the court docket numbers that they can refer to, and that anything that is contrary to that, then they are liable, because what they're printing is misinformation and disinformation. So I started to put them on notice because everything is on the record, and what they're showing and what they're writing is not correct. And I think I deserve for them to listen to me on that, because Tommy can't speak for himself on it.
Well, it's kind of, like every situation, it's sad that it has to come to a lawsuit, and it's getting to the point where, it's taken so many years of your life. I can definitely relate to that, unfortunately, for my part. Not in such serious terms of, trying to set somebody's name straight after they're gone. But, I was trying to fight for a bunch of shareholders for 6 years that really never got their justice in the long run because it was the design of the court system to just drag it out and make the person quit. But that's neither here nor there. The case that you're involved in, I think, is just incredible as far as the lengths that you've personally gone to for your husband. I mean, it's just... And not even being a boxing fan or anything, just wanting to set the record straight. It's just a new element that actually made it actually one of our most listened to broadcasts. By the way, I wanted to tell you before I forget the first interview.
Really? Okay, good.
So people definitely tuned in and heard about it.
I think Rich is. The reason why I haven't given up is, first of all, because I did promise Tommy that I wouldn't give up, and I never gave up on him at all during the time we were together. When he was going through drug rehab, he wanted somebody to listen to what he had been going through. So I'm not that type of person that will give up on people. But also, had I given up in 2014, I wouldn't be where I am today in 2020 with their confessions.
Yeah.
So, the more I keep digging, the more I find out. And there's a lot more.
It's almost at that level, like for me, as an investigative reporter looking at it, you have the kind of information that if it was put into like a Netflix documentary, you could make 10 times the money you're looking for in the lawsuit if people were willing to pick it up. The problem is, are they willing to pick it up? Are they willing to step on those toes that they're going to have to step on? And that's the politics of journalism. But, you're talking about a blockbuster story if they take it seriously and they're not worried about the consequences. And I just don't see why they haven't jumped at the chance yet. But maybe they just need extra encouragement.
Had the story been told 6 years ago, it still wouldn't have been the truth. Because, in 2020, that's when they confessed.
I believe this is definitely real news. Quest Diagnostics is one of the biggest makers of the COVID tests, right?
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
They definitely don't want that publicity out there right now that they had tests that were not correct back then, even.
Well, you know what, Rich? If you read through Docket 325, which Quest Diagnostics obviously have, and the court has, I mentioned COVID in there. And I mentioned the fact that Quest Diagnostics does not detect the virus of HIV, nor does it detect the virus of COVID in any of its testing.
Right.
All right? So that's already on the record in Docket 325, which is still pending in court, and their response did not waver what I just said, right? So they know that they can't test for the COVID virus using a PCR test. Tommy and I knew the inventor of the PCR test, Kerry Mullis, and he did not invent the test to detect the virus.
Right.
So, so I think Quest know, and they kept quiet because they did not,
They're making money on it.
They didn't disagree with what I had written.
Yeah. It's unfortunate how these big medical companies can push their way around and throw money at people and make them forget their morals. It's ridiculous. But, who knows? Who knows what to believe half the time with the news outlets and actually a lot of the news outlets are sponsored by them. It's just scary. So, I actually saw this. You'll get a kick out of this one. I saw a commercial now for a drug for Crohn's disease, and they use the word remission. You'll go into remission. You will see remission from Crohn's disease. I've never heard that word used with Crohn's disease. And then you listen to the side effects they rattle off, and of course one of them is cancer. So maybe that's the remission they're talking about. It's just unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal. But anyway,
Yeah.
I definitely applaud your effort. We just want to thank you for coming on tonight. Give you a chance to tell everybody how to find you on the World Wide Web. I love listening to, checking out all your posts. You also post a lot of Rocky V stuff, action figures and the works. I mean, all kinds of stuff that's worth tuning into. So tell everybody where to find you out there so they can follow you too.
Yeah, Rocky V actually, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, Rocky V actually celebrated its 30th anniversary this year, so that was kind of exciting.
Awesome.
I mean, we're on Twitter and we're on Instagram and obviously Facebook. And there's a website because it has Tommy's books on there if anybody does want to actually buy his words as opposed to listening to somebody else's words about his own life, right? So the website is www.tommythedukemorrison.com.
All right.
And Tricia, it was ironic as we were talking, I looked down at my phone for a second, had Facebook up, and one of the posts that I scrolled by was one of yours from yesterday, which was a screenshot of Rocky V with Tommy in the Stars and Stripes trunk, landing a right-hand knockout punch. And you're right, yeah, talking about this year being the 30th anniversary. I remember I went to see it. There was a little strip mall about maybe 20 minutes from where I lived, and they had this little strip mall had like a small department store and then like a little pizza place and like an arcade game with about maybe 10 games in it. Well, there was a movie theater there, and I saw some great movies there. I saw like My Cousin Vinny there and Terminator 2 there. That was like my spot to go in the early 90s because it wasn't one of those like really big theaters. And I remember seeing Rocky V there on a Sunday afternoon for $1.50.
Yeah, that's great.
Times have changed, right?
Yeah, I know. And you know what? A lot of people are watching Rocky V again and again and again, and it is like wine. It gets better every year, right? You watch it, and
I was joking with Tony.
To appreciate the fact that,
joking with Tony before the show that with all the snowfall here, I don't know if you've watched the other Rocky movies, but I'm thinking about doing a Rocky IV parody, carrying a log through the deep snow in my backyard here.
Yeah.
And with me being from Philadelphia, what I always enjoyed about the movies was the fact that I've been on all those streets. So it's like when they were doing the scene when they were running at the Italian market, I'm like right there where they were doing that running scene. That's where there's a shop there where I used to get all of my custom boxing trunks and robes made. And I'm like, I used to get my cheese there. I used to get my whatever there. I'm using, of course, and then getting to be like an extra in two of the films. Just seeing how they do it, seeing Sylvester Stallone, up close, 10 feet away, and I'm like, and all the work. People don't realize how much work that really is because the last one I was on, a fight scene that was mainly a 30-second fight scene. Took a day and a half to film. Just over with the choreography, and then we got to do this one, and all the crowd has to be silent so you can hear the guys in like Stallone or the other trainer or the referee or the announcers. They really don't realize, and you really respect the actors that have to play the boxers. Because, like I said, as I watched Michael B. Jordan and Andre Ward work up close, you got to learn how to pull your punches, especially a guy like Tommy that was a world-class heavyweight with knockout power in both hands. He could really hurt somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
As you were talking a little bit ago, and the one thing I wanted to say, because it popped into my mind, with what you're doing and with the way you're really taking almost like a pit bull approach to this, where you're not backing down. And I was thinking about some of Tommy's fights during his career, and the two that really stood out to me, one being a win, one being a loss, but it really showed how much of a great type of guy he was the fight with Joe Hip where he came back from a broken jaw. And, I mean, they went back and forth for 9 rounds. I remember watching that. I was down the shore on a Saturday afternoon. We'd just come back from fishing. And the other one was lost to Lennox Lewis. But I remember him in the corner, and I'll never forget it. Tommy, your right eye's closed. Well, I got my left eye. And that's almost, you're channeling a lot of that spirit that never say die, because you're like, you know what? You say this isn't going to work. Well, I still got this. You know,
right.
You know. Oh, I'm down. Yeah. Well, I got 10 seconds. Let me get back up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Yeah. One thing leads to the next thing, and you can't give up. And quite honestly, I know I'm going to win. Because there's just so much out there. Just need a break. You know, a good break, not a rest from this, but I need a break. I need the magistrate judge who's new to the case, guys, right? She is new to the case. And she's the one that filed the whereabouts of the tissue. I need her to grant this motion. So I know it's going to happen. And I think the defendants know it's going to happen. And you know what? I cannot wait to go to trial because I want Don King to be up there on the stand, right? And I want to depose every single person and look them in the eye and go, you know what happened that day, you know. So I'm ready for it. I really am. I'm not giving up.
Awesome. Well, more power to you, and I definitely will be pulling for you and doing what I can to support the mission, and just to get the story out. And it's not just. I think people lose the idea that it's, you know, it's only a story about Tommy and HIV. It's really a story about how long it takes to correct an injustice. To me, I mean, that's what really shines the light on. In general, it's just painfully, ridiculously long to try to use the courts to reverse something and make something right. And it's, you know, unfortunately the only outlet where you're trying to punish somebody financially where you can go through to do it. You can't just go in there with a gun and say, give me the money that you screwed Tommy out of, because then you'll go to jail. So you're forced to kind of go through the motions of stuff like this, and they really put you through the motions.
Right. But you know what, Rich? I think this year has actually been a good year for this case,
right.
Because when you think what Tommy was put through as an individual, he was told not to go to the gyms. You know, nobody would shake his hand. Nobody would breathe the same air as him, right? He was thrown out of his employment. You know, all those things. Now let's look at everybody going through this COVID situation. You know, businesses are closing. Nobody's shaking hands. Nobody wants to breathe the same air as everybody else because they have to wear masks,
right? Yeah.
Right? I think that a lot of people understand now what Tommy went through, not for 8-9 months as what everybody else in the world has done, but what he went through for years, you know, 13, 14 years, and also the testing. You know, people are realizing that you can test false positive on COVID tests. Well, wait a minute. You know, Tricia's now saying you can test false positive on HIV tests. Absolutely right. And they should have known that years ago, but the pharmaceutical companies didn't tell you that, right? But now in Tommy's case, it confirms that. So
well, I think a lot of people realize that
for this case.
These pharmaceutical companies have been lying to us for years. They lie to us every day in these commercials and all that. And, you know, the fact that they lied about, or, you know, whoever was involved in the tests lied about whether they could detect HIV or pretended they could detect HIV. It's just ridiculous. And then the thing I think about with, in terms of AIDS in general, I mean, you're still hearing and seeing in the media references to it, and for the life of me, it doesn't make any sense, because at the beginning when AIDS first came out, everybody was saying it's only a gay disease, you know, only gay people are getting it. And then, you know, society picked up on the fact that, well, No, it's not just. There's regular heterosexual people getting it. People are getting it through drug use. And so as people began to get educated, it stopped suddenly being a gay disease. But now, you look at the commercials, and you can't tell me every single person in the commercials for HIV drugs is not a gay person or being represented as a gay person. And they're not subtle about it, but it's just like, they're not saying that it's a gay disease, but yet they're showing all gay people in their commercials who are supposedly needing this. So, I mean, it just blows your mind. How did we get there?
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I've tried to stay out of that part of it. I'm just fighting for Tommy. Tommy didn't. Well,
I'm not making a political statement by mentioning that. I'm just pointing out reality. Yeah. It's strange. It's a strange development that have happened where they were telling us up and down when they're trying to educate us that it's not a gay disease, but yet now they're trying to appeal to gay people as if like they're depending on their fear of being told when they were kids that this is a gay disease. And I don't know what the connection is, but it just baffles me. That's the way they behave.
It's definitely got on a back burner now. HIV/AIDS, because COVID is now what people are talking about. But definitely all the documents in Tommy's case might help somebody else one day. So this is a reason also why I don't give up, because what happened to Tommy has happened to other people and will happen again. Right. And it totally destroyed Tommy's life, his career, and everything that he had going for him and for his family. And nobody should get away with that. And they're not going to get away with it.
Right. Well, it's been awesome catching up with you, and we definitely appreciate touching base with you and getting an update and informing our listeners, and we'll definitely follow up. And you can find Tricia out there on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram too, right? No?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have the same handle on all of them?
Yeah. You'd see it under Tommy Tricia Morrison or Tricia Tommy Morrison. Yeah. So you'll be able to easily find it on there.
Okay. Well, I'd say good luck, but I don't think you need luck. You're full of hard work, and your determination is bound to pay off. I mean, it's kind of like it just reminds me.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, it reminds me of when I was in my fight, and I got that one person that told me the truth always shines through in the end, and I stuck to that. That was what really carried me through, because I saw these people trying to lie and trying to get through the courts by using their influence or a powerful lawyer, and the one thing they always kept me going was the idea that you can't invent the truth. At some point, if they're lying,
right,
their story changes because they don't remember it. But if you're always telling the truth, your story never changes. So
that's right.
In that respect, it makes it easier.
If somebody tuned into Richard, somebody tuned into our interview that we did previously and the one now, my story has never changed, but the commission's and the defendant's story has. Their 1996 story is not the same as what it is today.
Exactly.
So our next interview will be when we have won the case.
Awesome.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm down for that. All right. Well, we'll do whatever we can to help that come to fruition. And
all right. Thank you very much, guys. I really, really appreciate it.
No problem.
Tricia, always a pleasure.
Yes, indeed, Patricia. And my crystal ball says the same thing. Full speed ahead. That's
Where have you been?
Tom's the quiet one. He needs to pipe in more sometimes, but he's always there with his crystal ball.
Tom, what else do you see in that crystal ball?
Well, sometimes things happen, and it's almost like a little sign from the departed. I don't know how you came across the tissue, if it was some coincidence, but it just didn't feel like coincidence. And sometimes things happen like that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, it's not a coincidence because, you know, when I was reading something about the laws that Tommy supposedly had violated, it was like 11:11 at night, you know, and something came into my head, you know, let me just check on that law. And this was in 2020, right, at the beginning of the year. And lo and behold, that law didn't exist, Tom. And then I started to look up all the other laws, and they didn't exist either. So when it came to the tissue, again, it was just another little thought, right, that just popped into my head. And it was like, there has to be something left of Tommy's in the morgue. They took extra blood, right? I even tried to get that, but they destroyed that. But they came up with this tissue. So yeah, it's something, Tom. It really is. I mean, it's definitely Tommy's left hook coming in to win. This will be the winning punch.
Exactly. Just the way you described that, I guess some people would say, oh, it was just a coincidence. No, but not. I don't believe it, and he'll be with you. You know, when you have setbacks, he's been with you. He's still with you. When you have these setbacks and you've got that grit to just keep going, right down on your piece and keep going.
Yeah, that's right. And he puts people in my life that will help me, and then suddenly the people that are really not helping, you know, he makes sure that they stay out. So it's been an interesting ride.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I had an experience that's made me believe in the paranormal. Probably about 7 or 8 years ago now, when I was working on another woman's legal case, doing all her documentation for her and everything. She was involved in a big fight against a plastic surgeon. And to make a long story short, I was working on a legal document for her, and I went to bed that night. House is pitch black, and I had, at this point, she had committed suicide. And I had her car in the driveway that she had put in her will, and I wasn't going to be able to register it, but I had driven it up to New Hampshire illegally and was just holding on to it until I could. And so anyway, I wrote the legal document, and then in the middle of the night, the radio comes on, full blast, the stereo system in the living room. Nobody's in the living room. We're both, me and my roommate are in our own rooms. And there was one sentence that came over the radio before it shut right off. And it was from a song, I forget who sang it, but it's like a Simon and Garfunkel type of groove. And it was said, I believe that what you say is the undisputed truth. And then it shut off. And my roommate's like, well, I don't know, it might have been something I did. And I said, no. Did you hear what it said? And he said, I don't know what it was said. And I told him the line, and he said, oh, geez, I didn't realize it. Just said that, and it shut off. I go, yeah. So, and I was doing the document right in the basement of the house. Her car's in the driveway. So that day I pretty much said, yeah, the paranormal is real. And it's always, you hear the stories, it's always kind of in situations like that where they send the message electronically. And my dad died right before the COVID situation, and something happened electronically weird in the car when we were on the way to his wake. We were talking about, you know, squabbles between me and my sisters over the years, and I said something about not being mad, and then all of a sudden our GPS unit, which was telling us the directions to the funeral home, says, I'm not mad. Like it was listening to us or repeating the conversation or some weird way. And I've never had a GPS repeat a conversation like that, so it just seemed very odd to me that it was the timing of that and all that. Maybe he was trying to tell us he wasn't mad either. Crazy.
Huh.
But yeah, I believe in that
Tom,
stuff.
polish that crystal ball of yours, okay?
Yes, ma'am. That's a promise.
All right, Patricia, we'll let you go. You have a great night, and keep us updated. We'll keep the fans updated.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great talking to you as always.
All right. Take care.
See ya. Have a good holiday.
Yep.
You too. Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas. Stay away from the COVID.
I will.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
All right.
How are all of us doing? Are we all staying safe? I guess my friend's mom has minor symptoms, so and talking to my friend's stepdad last week, being Italian guy growing up in an Italian family, Christmas Eve is his favorite holiday with the 7 fishes and all that, and he held out to the last minute, and he goes, I still want to have a dinner, and he's thinking, I still want to have our people over, and we're like, yeah, but we probably really shouldn't. He goes, yeah, but I think he held out to the last minute. And, last week he was coming in late because he was taking her for a test, and my friend texted me the other day because she's got very minor symptoms. So she was definitely out, and I'm like, yeah, this year, and you guys have known me, Rich, we've been doing this together for almost 13 years now, as crazy as that sounds, right? And Tom, we've been on here for the better part of a decade.
Yeah.
People say to me stuff like, you get so fired up, to do this Christmas tree shit. And I said, you gotta understand something. I am like a natural, performer. Even when I'm on here, I get into things and I go off on like 1,000,000 miles a minute. I took what I used to love about the fighting, the boxing, and if I'm going somewhere, I feel like I gotta put on a show. Because when I was in the ring, you got that natural high. Walk into the ring, whether you were fighting in my home gym, and and I had 3,000 people cheering my name to where I couldn't hear the bell. I'm fighting in Reno, Nevada, and getting death threats walking to the ring. You got that natural high. You were either the good guy or the bad guy, and when it was over, you put on a or rocking and rolling when it was over. I mean, it felt really good, And then you lose that for a while, and then even when I would go to I would go in there like I was putting on a performance. I was punching a heavy bag, But to me, all eyes in the place were on me, and plain not true. In my eyes, it had to be. And then that's where I developed this whole Phillies thing. So if you guys ever see me when I'm getting ready for a game, I actually pretend like I'm in a dressing room. And especially the first one of the season I do, holy shit, it's like I'm actually nervous. I won't lie to you when I say that. I got everything laid out, and and I'm in the room, and I'm trying to sit down, but I can't sit down, And then when I come out of that room and I start headed down to the game, whether I'm down in Florida or whether I'm up in Philly, for me, that's I'm coming out there to put on a show, and that's my mentality. That's what gives me my high. Same thing with what I'm doing right now. If I didn't have, I would have, really, really struggled over the last 2 months when they started closing things down again. Gyms in Pennsylvania, they closed the gyms again. No indoor dining. No concerts. Can't go to bars. You can't go anywhere. And it's like
it makes you just
hell.
It makes your head spin thinking about how the NFL has been able to operate with almost no cancellations.
I know. And
unreal.
And I don't know if you heard this latest one. I'll tell you in a minute. So for me, when I get to go down to this lot, and
congratulations to your Philadelphia Eagles, by the way, for the upset. Fucked my fantasy team right up, but it's okay.
I didn't pick them last week. I didn't pick them
Sanders and all.
And I'll pick them again the rest of the season. But you just even when I go there, I'm sitting there being in front of all the customers. People come up we remember you from last year, and you give us a show. You're the best. And I'm like, am I really? Probably not. But I stick out to people, and that's what I want to do. Talking about the NFL, as crazy as it's been, it's been a challenge. some stadiums have, limited, attendance. Like, I think the Eagles had 3 games where they had partial attendance, where out of a 70,000 seat stadium, they had like 7,500 spectators. Like 1/10, right? And those 1/10 were booing because they were playing like shit those games. But now they made an announcement today for the Super Bowl this year. They're probably going to invite first responders that have gotten the vaccine. So if you look at it, Super Bowl is going to be, you're right, Super Bowl is going to be first weekend in February, right?
Yeah.
And, and usually, like, they'll have it, I forget where it's going to be this year, but just for argument's sake, say it's in Miami, Miami Stadium, 70,000 people. What's the Super Bowl with 10th capacity, right? That sucks. But you figure, okay, we started vaccinating people yesterday or 2. Those people, those healthcare workers, they'll have their second dose probably by third week of January.
Right.
And then it takes about 3 to 4 weeks to build up the antibodies. So by February 5th or whatever it is, they'll be immune.
Yeah.
Now you can build a crowd. Nice. I'm actually keeping tabs on how everything's progressing. I read stuff every day. And I read 2 things that caught my interest. And if you guys have heard anything, please fill me in.
I heard people were eating each other already from the vaccine. No, I saw a post on Facebook about it.
I can believe it. Nothing surprises me anymore. But the other day...
no, it was funny. There are already memes going around.
I wasn't on the computer much yesterday because, I wasn't working yesterday. On, I think it was Tuesday, I was, reading my updates every day. I want to see, okay, they're starting to give people the shots in the arms and this and that. So the one, it was actually an article over in Great Britain. I should have asked Tricia on it. God damn it, maybe she would have had some information. So they were like, okay, Great Britain has bought so many vials, and it was naming each vaccine that they bought. They bought so many vials of Pfizer, which just got approved and started distribution earlier this week. And in Great Britain, they started last week. They bought so many Moderna, which actually got the U.S. approval, I believe, was today, and they're going to start rolling it out, I think, as of Monday. And then, I know AstraZeneca, which is based over in England, them with the University of Oxford, they got so many. But then there were 2 more that I hadn't heard nothing about. I mean, nothing. Nil. Like 60 million from one and like 40 million from another. That's 100 million doses of 2 companies I never heard of. So more is out there than we know. Because every day I would look and see what companies were in what phases and what trial levels. And there were 2 that are approved or pretty much close to approved that I never heard of.
Yeah.
One was like Novavax or something
well,
along those lines, and I'm like,
they're going to be coming out of the woodwork. I think there's only 2 of them here, right? That they're going to be using here, and I was like telling my girlfriend she was full of it when she said people should get it for free, and I was like, what do you mean should? Like, they are getting it for free? And then they did say it. They put it out on the news that, yeah, you get it for free. But how does that work? I mean, I know that the vaccine research and development was paid for by the United States, but what about that nurse that has to get paid to inject you with it those 2 times? How does that get paid for?
I'll tell you right now, I'll answer you from the insurance side of it. This is what I do every day. I work for health insurance, right? Just like the flu vaccine. Flu vaccine is considered a preventative vaccine. So here are things that the CDC considers preventative. So, okay, we're all, males. So they say, okay, we're over the age of 40, Rich, you and I. And so we would be now eligible for X, Y, Z. Until we hit the age of 50, we're not eligible for a routine colonoscopy. That's 50 and above. So now say, for argument's sake, say you have family history of colon cancer. And they say, Rich, you're high risk. We want you to go in for this test. But the CDC doesn't say it should be covered until you're 50. You would go in considered like not a preventative test, but a diagnostic test, almost like the same as getting an X-ray on an injury. Now, the CDC says, okay, so here's what's considered preventative, like your annual, examination. You go into your PCP once a year, height, weight, they'll do like some lipid testings on you, they'll check your heart and all that bullshit. That's preventative because they're making sure that there's no, like they might check your glands and be like, Rich, you have swollen glands. You might be developing, like lymphoma. And they might catch it early just because you went in for your preventative, which in the long term saves money because you catch that lymphoma early and you get them removed and maybe you have like a few bouts of radiation instead of years of chemo.
Right.
Or, multiple surgeries. So this one here is going to be considered preventative just like the flu vaccine. You get the flu vaccine, it covers it 100% per the CDC guidelines, and then that prevents you from getting the flu, which can, prevent a hospitalization, can prevent, you being out of work. It'll prevent you from going in for multiple doctor visits. So it's, in a way, your insurance by paying that amount up front is, in long term, saving themselves money by you then not having to go for a hospitalization and a pneumonia and all that other bullshit. So this one, same thing. They're gonna, there'll be two charges for, usually each one. Usually it'll be the physician charge or the nurse charge, and then the vaccine. Sometimes they'll bill it all in one with two lines, the injection, and then the actual drug together. Or sometimes they'll bill two claims, but they'll bill it with a preventative diagnosis code. And once that code goes in, it's automatically considered through the CDC as preventative, and it will cover it 100%.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, what about somebody without health insurance? They'll
still
still have to pay out of pocket for the injection, right? But they could get the actual product for free?
What do you mean? Who has to pay out of pocket?
Somebody without insurance who wants the vaccine.
Oh, well, if you don't have insurance, of course. How can you have something billed if, you don't have anybody to bill it to, right?
Right.
But no, if you don't have insurance. But then here's what also makes it difficult. The fact that, right now we're only doing it in waves. Now, you don't want to turn somebody away and say, okay, hey, you're like a 67-year-old guy. Now, if you're over 65, you should have Medicare. So right there, you have an insurance.
Yeah.
But say you're a person that's like 45 years old, you have diabetes, you have some medical issues, whatever, but you don't have insurance. You have to figure out a way to, you're high risk. So that one I can't answer. But I can answer for the insured people. Like, trust me, my client was already sending me emails on things last week saying, hey, when this rolls out, how's this going? And I said, listen, we've been waiting on this for months now. So we already know. The only thing that's going to be a challenge is that they're going to be, the Center of Disease Control is going to be building diagnosis codes and procedure codes for this particular vaccination, just like the flu vaccine has something, just like, your mammograms and your colonoscopies all have unique codes. So they're going to be building these codes for this vaccine and, the diagnosis and procedure codes. But the problem is then we got to find what those are, build them into our systems so it doesn't reject as not recognized.
Right.
Because if they send the code in right now and saying, hey, we have diagnosis code Z12345, procedure code, 67819, what the fuck is this? We had to actually build new codes when when the code was first happening for people that were getting the test.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Because they were denying.
we got to wrap it up here with a little boxing. Not going to have time to go through all the results and all that in the upcoming fights, but we mentioned Gennady Golovkin. He's fighting a guy named Kamil Suramita, and then Callum Smith actually is 27-0. So whoever else is fighting.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. Last week, our former guest didn't do so well. Toka Khan Clary lost to Shakur Stevenson in the main event. But I did catch the co-main there. Again, delayed due to college football, which we talked about in the last episode, coincidentally. Delayed quite a while. Those guys were sitting around for at least 45 minutes waiting to fight because college football had another quarter to go. But it was a ridiculous game. It was actually one I'm glad I watched because it turned out to be in the Come On Man segment for the Monday Night Football. I knew it was going to be, but so ended up happening was at the end of the game, I believe it was a tie game at the time, all tied up. It was going to go to overtime. But so this team's driving down the field that's not expected to win, and then all of a sudden there's a penalty on the defensive side. The defensive guy picked up the guy's cleat and threw it 20 yards down the field. The guy that just made the play on the offense, you know. So they, you know, it was supposed to be fourth down, punt it. Nope. First down, penalty. They ended up kicking a 57-yard field goal, which is ridiculously long in the NFL. Never mind college. So the college guy gets it, and then the other team does have another chance to get down the field. They get down to a 51-yarder, and they miss. So the team that was not expected to win at all ends up winning the game, and it's a penalty, basically. You can blame on the whole thing for throwing a guy's cleat. Right when I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's going to be a penalty. That's just stupid. Unreal.
You know what? And I won last week on that Buffalo Frisco game. I had hit through all my pool, which is finally at least I made my money back for the season. But the humorous thing was I'm scrolling through here, just looking at different, not sports related, but you guys will get a kick out of this, especially you, Tom, because I know you're not on social media, so you don't see a lot of the dumb shit that I post. Experts warn of potential COVID-19 vaccine scam phone calls. I'm like, oh, thank God. I can't wait to answer some of these. I used to hate these scam calls. I used to hate them. I would just ignore them. I would hang up on them. I would block them. I would do whatever. I'm trying to disable the scam because I am loving these calls. Like, I get the car warranty calls, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to mess with these people? So I had the one guy call in, and they're like, well, I got the idea from my dad, because my dad finally got mad one day, and he took the call, and he goes, they're like, what's the make and model of your car? He goes, no, you're calling me, you tell me. What? He goes, no, you tell me, and he's just flipping out, and the guy hangs up on him. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's a brilliant idea. So the guy calls me, Chris, and Chris goes, what's the make and model of your car? I said, 1964 Buick Skylark convertible with metallic mint green paint, which is the car from my cousin Vinny. Sorry, you don't qualify. I said, what, I don't qualify to get scammed anymore? I'm like, Jesus Christ, he hangs up on me. So then another person calls me up that I got an overcharge on my electric bill, and they're going to be sending me money. So I have people over the house, and they're all holding their mouths because they're laughing so hard. What? So I'm like, somebody got overcharged me. What the hell? I said, someone sending me money? Are you sending me money? Because it's Christmas time and I need to buy some presents. And the guy goes, no, it's a third party. I said, party? I said, they had a party, they didn't invite me, and they charged me for it? Motherfuckers all beat their ass. And the guy's like, no, it's a third party. I'm like, I want to send me money because I'm beating somebody's ass today. He hangs up on me. I took a call the other day. My name was Richard Head the Third, a.k.a. Dickhead. I did the 1964 Buick Skylark again. I said, confused the 1963 Pontiac Tempest, and the woman and her name was Morrison, and I'm like, how ironic, Marissa Tomei, my cousin Vinny. I'm like, she hung up on me, and I'm like, come on, Marissa, you ought to know this shit, you know? Are you sure? I'm positive. Oh my God, I'm having a blast on these calls. So I'm waiting for these.
Oh, I heard there's one with stimulus checks. Even though stimulus checks were just approved today, I guess they're going to send us $600.
Yeah, sounds good.
Instead of 12.
I'll be fucking with them too.
But it's supposedly, I heard this on the radio, the IRS, they're pretending to be the IRS, that they want to deposit money into your account. So they're texting people.
Great.
I don't know if it's
Fantastic.
on the phone type
I'm
deal.
ready. Ones. Let's see. My dad's like, well, you don't. He goes, you can be Richard Head the Third, but don't be forgetting about being Richard Nose the Third too. I like it.
All right. Also, last week,
I'm sitting there.
I did catch another fight last week, but I didn't really, watch the Toka Conclave fight too intently. But the co-main event there, Edgar Berlanga, he has an undefeated streak going.
I was watching the other card, but I fell asleep.
And oh man,
yeah, my boy, he texted me. He goes, oh, Berlanga's fight. Now it's over.
Ruined him. He ruined him. And he was throwing such hard punches that the other guy was blocking them. And was just legitimately looking like he was getting his ass kicked anyway. Like, just blocking them was hurting him. Just totally got blown out of the water there. We also had Richardson Hitchens beating Alguinis Mendez and Chris Colbert over Jamie Arboleda. This was the big fights last week. Huey Fury also beating Marius Wach. And, of course, Anthony Joshua pulling out the win over Kubrat Pulev. And then this
dropped
week,
him like 5 times.
Yeah. So looking good there. Setting up the Tyson Fury fight. We'll see if that goes through. And, yeah, that's pretty much it for upcoming stuff and last week's events. Till next week, we'll talk about the Canelo Alvarez fight and whatever Gennady does tomorrow night. I'll probably missed some Bellator somewhere in there too. I bet you there was a Bellator card we forgot about, but oh well. Great interview with Patricia, and we'll catch up with everything else next week.
Sounds good, man. Well, unless we do it Wednesday night, because Thursday night's Christmas Eve, and I'm probably going to be 3 sheets to win.
That's right. I should have thought about that. Probably no show next week. So we're going to have a 2-week break.
Okay.
So 2 weeks from now, we shall come back. Oh, geez. We're going to have we're literally going to have a 2-week break then. So 3 weeks from now. All right, holiday break.
Like I said, if you want to do it another night, Tuesday or Wednesday, I mean, like my schedule's probably workable next week. I don't know what nights I'm working a lot. Probably Tuesday, but
Wednesday night next week.
But yeah.
All right, we'll think about it.
Anyway. All right, well, let me know.
Alrighty. Thanks for stopping by.
All right, guys. Enjoy the fights.
Sounds good.
Sir.
Later, guys.
Adios.